yeah, this is my final point here. So this person says, for the Western mind, perhaps the most disturbing fact about, quote unquote, fact about the founder of Islam is that he has had a sexual relationship with a 9-year-old girl. And because of this, it's become increasingly popular in some circles to refer to the Prophet of Islam as a pedophile. He says, this is, of course, extremely offensive to Muslims who view Muhammad as the ideal servant of God and the greatest example of what a man should strive to be. Now, note, saying for the Western mind is implying that the Westerners are somehow more civilized than those in the East. It's xenophobic, Islamophobic. He's talking about Muslims. And what fact is he talking about? The one based on authentic hadith that have varying sources? And what circles, this is my final words, what circles call Muhammad a pedophile? David Wood circles. David Wood circles. And who wrote that article? David Wood wrote that article, 2009, and surely he should know by now that the Muslims themselves, and stop trying to disqualify the fact that the Muslims themselves disagree and you don't get to choose.
Very much, Kenny, for your opening statement. And with that, we are going to hand it back to Dr. Wood for your 10-minute rebuttal.
All right, for anyone just tuning in, we're debating whether it's immoral for a man who's the pattern of conduct for billions of people to marry a girl who's young enough to be his granddaughter and to have sex with her when she's only 9 years old. I'm arguing that Muhammad's marriage to Aisha was immoral. Kenny's arguing that Muhammad's marriage to Aisha wasn't immoral. In my opening statement, I showed that Aisha was indeed 9 years old when Muhammad had sex with her. I presented what's called an even if, but in fact argument. Even if Aisha had reached puberty when Muhammad had sex with her, it was immoral because sex with young girls puts them at risk. But in fact, Aisha hadn't reached puberty, and so the relationship was especially heinous. How did Kenny respond? He says, I'm guilty of presentism for applying modern standards to Muhammad. And I agree, it's not always a good idea to apply our standards to other people around the world or to people down through the centuries. The problem here is that Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for Muslims in the present. And so the present is relevant. And he's the pattern of conduct for Muslims in the United States. So this is all relevant for discussion here. He says, I'm trying to demonize all Muslims. I'm attacking all Muslims. Not at all. Most Muslims live far better lives than their prophet ever lived. So hats off to them. He says, I didn't tell you that Aisha was happily married. And he says that Aisha could have spoken up if she'd been abused. Yeah, it was really safe to say what a horrible person Muhammad was in that culture where you'd be killed for saying such a thing. And by the way, Aisha said that she wanted a monogamous relationship, whereas Muhammad had 9 wives and not counting his slave girls. And so that was an ongoing source of distress for her. He says that Muslim scholars agree that there was no wrongdoing. Why do they agree that there's no wrongdoing? Because you won't criticize Muhammad. If you did have a problem with it, you'd be ex-Muslims and you'd be endlessly ridiculed by Muslims. I think Kenny said that we can't. Yeah, we said that we can't prove her age. How many references did I give? Now notice, just notice that. We'll talk about this more, but Kenny quoted a variety of sources. Who was he quoting? Gary Wills or something like that? Who was I quoting? Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan an-Nasai, Sunan Ibn Majah, the history of At-Tabari, Ibn Kathir. These are who I'm quoting. Who is he quoting? Gary Wills? Who? The encyclopedia of what? Is this how Islam works? The Islamophobes quote authentic Muslim sources and then the opponents quote none. The defenders of Islam quote the encyclopedia of such and such. Interesting methodology going on here. So he quotes the New World Encyclopedia and other sources saying that she may have been 12 to 14 or older. He quotes someone who says that Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Kathir and others say that she was in her late teens. This is very easy. It's very easy to show how this works. Ibn Ishaq, page such and such, says she was 14. Give the reference. Ibn Kathir, on page such and such, says she was 14 or 16 or 18. What did Ibn Kathir say? I literally read the reference. Ibn Kathir says there's no dispute, no dispute at all on Muhammad having sex with Aisha when she was 9 years old.